Emily Carter stood by the kitchen window as soft rain fell across the quiet Portland street. The house behind her was neat and warm, yet it carried a silence that felt heavier with every passing evening. 2 years had passed since her husband Mark died, but grief had not left. It had simply changed shape. It lived in small routines, making tea for one instead of two, setting only one place at the table and ending each night with the sound of an empty hallway. At 42, Emily had learned how to function again, but she had not truly learned how to live. Her stepson Daniel still lived with her while finishing college. He was polite, responsible, and kind, but their relationship felt careful, almost fragile. They respected each other deeply, yet both avoided talking about Mark because the memories were still tender. Daniel spent most of his time studying or out with friends, and Emily never complained. She understood that young people needed movement and noise, even if her own world had slowed into quiet repetition. One Friday evening, the front door opened earlier than usual. Daniel walked in laughing, followed by a tall young man Emily had never seen before. Daniel introduced him casually. His name was Ryan Mitchell, a classmate working with him on a project. Ryan greeted her warmly, thanking her for welcoming him into the house as if he already understood how much manners mattered to her generation. Emily noticed immediately that he spoke with calm confidence, not forced politeness, but genuine respect. They shared dinner together that night, something Emily rarely did with Daniel anymore because of his busy schedule. Ryan asked questions about her work at the library and listened carefully to her answers. Most people nodded politely and moved on, but Ryan stayed engaged, curious about her interests, even her favorite authors. Emily found herself talking more than she expected, laughing at small things she normally kept to herself. The conversation felt easy, natural, and strangely comforting. After dinner, Daniel went upstairs to finish an assignment, leaving Emily and Ryan alone in the kitchen cleaning dishes. The moment could have felt awkward, yet it didn't. Ryan commented that the house felt peaceful, and Emily joked that peaceful sometimes meant lonely. The honesty slipped out before she could stop it. Ryan didn't try to fix the moment or offer sympathy. He simply nodded, understanding without making her feel pitied. That quiet understanding stayed with her long after he left that night. Over the following weeks, Ryan began visiting often. Sometimes he came to study with Daniel. Other times he stopped briefly to return notes or borrow books. Emily told herself she appreciated the energy he brought into the home because it helped Daniel smile again. Still, she noticed how the atmosphere changed whenever Ryan was around. Conversations became livelier, meals lasted longer, and laughter returned to rooms that had grown too quiet. Emily hadn't realized how deeply loneliness had settled into her life until she felt it lifting. She started cooking more elaborate dinners again, something she had stopped doing after Mark's death. She even played music while working around the house, rediscovering habits she once loved. None of it felt intentional. It simply happened as warmth slowly returned to her daily routine. One afternoon, Daniel was out running errands when Ryan arrived unexpectedly to drop off class materials. Emily hesitated before inviting him inside, unsure why she suddenly felt nervous. They sat in the living room talking about ordinary things, travel dreams, favorite movies, and the uncertainty of the future. Ryan spoke openly about wanting a meaningful life rather than just success. And Emily shared stories about her younger years, stories she hadn't told anyone in a long time. As they talked, Emily realized something unsettling. For the first time since losing her husband, she felt seen not as a widow or caretaker, but as a person with thoughts and emotions that still mattered. The realization startled her. She reminded herself of the age difference, of boundaries, of responsibility. Ryan was Daniel's friend. Whatever comfort she felt had to remain harmless. That evening, she stood before her bedroom mirror, questioning her own feelings. She told herself that loneliness could create illusions, that kindness should not be misunderstood. Determined to protect everyone involved, she decided to create distance. Over the next few days, she kept conversations short and busying herself whenever Ryan visited. She convinced herself this was the mature and responsible choice. Ryan noticed the change almost immediately. One evening, while Daniel searched upstairs for a misplaced notebook, Ryan gently asked if she had been avoiding him. Emily denied it quickly, though her voice lacked conviction. Ryan didn't challenge her explanation. He simply said she didn't need to pretend around him. His calm honesty unsettled her because it touched the truth she was trying to ignore. Emily began to understand that her struggle was not about Ryan himself, but about reopening a heart she had carefully closed. After Mark's death, she had promised herself she would never risk emotional pain again. Feeling anything deeply seemed dangerous, like stepping onto fragile ice. A week later, Emily attended a neighborhood gathering alone. Surrounded by couples sharing jokes and casual affection, she felt like an observer watching life continue without her. She realized she had spent years surviving rather than participating. Driving home through dimly lit streets, she admitted silently that she missed connection more than she had allowed herself to admit. When she arrived home, Ryan was sitting on the porch steps, waiting for Daniel. The streetlight cast a warm glow over the quiet scene. He greeted her kindly and noticed her tired expression. Without thinking, Emily admitted she sometimes felt like she no longer belonged anywhere. The confession surprised even her. Ryan responded gently, saying that belonging sometimes begins by allowing others to care. His words were simple but sincere, and for a brief moment their eyes met with an intensity neither expected. Nothing inappropriate happened, yet the emotional closeness felt undeniable. Emily immediately stepped back, reminding herself that things must not become complicated. Ryan respected her boundary without hesitation, agreeing quietly. The moment passed, but its meaning lingered. Inside the house, Daniel called out cheerfully, unaware that something subtle yet powerful had shifted between the two people outside. That night, Emily lay awake thinking about the changes within herself. She realized her heart was no longer frozen in grief. Feelings she believed were gone forever had begun to return. Curiosity, warmth, even hope. Instead of comfort, the realization brought fear. Opening her heart meant risking judgment, misunderstanding, and emotional pain. She wondered whether moving forward could ever be loyal to the past she cherished. Loving again felt almost like betraying the memory of her husband, even though she knew logically that life continued. The conflict left her restless, caught between gratitude for new emotional light and guilt for feeling it at all. Meanwhile, Daniel remained unaware, happily focused on his studies and friendship with Ryan. Watching them laugh together reminded Emily how much healing Daniel still needed after losing his father. Protecting that bond became another reason she tried to control her emotions. Yet despite her efforts, she could not deny a simple truth. Ryan's presence had awakened something she thought was gone forever. He had not forced change or crossed boundaries. Instead, through kindness and understanding, he reminded her that she was still capable of connection. As the rain returned late that night, tapping gently against the windows again, Emily realized her life stood at a quiet turning point. Nothing dramatic had happened, no decisions made, no promises spoken. Still, everything felt different. For the first time in years, the future no longer looked like an endless repetition of lonely days. It looked uncertain, emotional, and complicated, but also alive. And as she closed her eyes, Emily understood that the hardest part was not resisting change. It was deciding whether she was brave enough to accept it. Emily tried to return to her normal routine after the quiet moment she shared with Ryan on the porch. But something inside her had already changed. She continued going to work at the library each morning, greeting visitors, arranging books, and helping children find stories they loved. On the outside, nothing looked different. Yet her thoughts often drifted back to the conversation that made her realize how lonely she had truly been. For years, she had accepted silence as part of life, but now she questioned whether that silence had become a wall she built around herself. At home, Daniel remained busy with his final semester of college. The house was often filled with the sound of typing keyboards, music from his room, and the occasional laughter when Ryan visited to study. Emily kept her distance as she had promised herself, focusing on simple kindness without long conversations. She believed this would protect everyone from confusion. But emotions rarely disappear simply because someone decides to ignore them. One afternoon, Emily was reading in the living room when she overheard Daniel speaking excitedly on the phone with Ryan. His voice carried through the hallway. He had received news from a university in Chicago that accepted his transfer application. Daniel had always dreamed of experiencing a new city. And this opportunity meant he could finish his degree while starting a new chapter of his life. Emily listened quietly, feeling both pride and a sudden ache in her chest. When Daniel came downstairs later that evening, his face bright with excitement, he shared the news with her. Emily smiled warmly and hugged him, telling him she was proud of his courage to chase his goals. She meant every word. Daniel deserved a future full of possibility. Still, after he went upstairs again, Emily sat alone at the kitchen table, realizing how empty the house would feel once he left. Ryan noticed her thoughtful expression. When he walked into the kitchen later that night, Daniel had stepped outside to make another call, leaving the two of them alone again. Ryan asked gently if she was okay. Emily answered honestly that letting go was never easy, especially after losing so much already. Ryan listened carefully and said something simple but powerful. He told her that change did not always mean loss. Sometimes it meant growth. The words stayed with Emily long after Ryan left that evening. She began to see Daniel's decision differently. Instead of viewing his departure as another goodbye, she tried to see it as proof that life continued moving forward. Perhaps she could move forward to dot the following weeks passed quickly as Daniel prepared for his move. Boxes appeared around the house, filled with books, clothes, and memories from his childhood room. Emily helped him organize everything, offering advice about apartments, budgets, and cooking simple meals. Their relationship felt warmer than before. Working together gave them time to talk about Mark, something they had avoided for years. They shared funny memories, small regrets, and stories that reminded them how much he had loved them both. During those busy days, Ryan continued visiting occasionally to help Daniel pack or review class notes. Emily and Ryan still kept their distance out of respect for Daniel. Yet their conversations remained meaningful when they happened. They talked about dreams, mistakes, and the importance of second chances. Ryan admired Emily's strength in rebuilding her life after grief. Emily appreciated Ryan's honesty and thoughtful perspective. One evening, while Daniel was out buying moving supplies, Emily and Ryan found themselves sitting on the porch again. The air was cool and the neighborhood was quiet. Emily decided to speak openly about something that had been on her mind. She explained that she had spent years believing her life was finished emotionally after losing her husband. She had focused only on responsibility and survival. Ryan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he told her that healing did not mean forgetting the past. It meant allowing the future to exist alongside those memories. Emily realized then that Ryan never tried to push boundaries or rush emotions.